Before we get into our regular meeting, I do need to make a couple quick announcements. So first off, I want to let everyone know that for the foreseeable future, we are going to be doing these meetings as virtual only. This is due to a staffing decision at Army Corps of Engineers. We will be intending to return to a hybrid meeting in the future. So that would be both an in-person and virtual elements. But right now I can't make any guarantees as to when that's going to be. So while we're assessing that, we will let folks know. And then for the time being, I'm sorry, folks, I'm hopefully not going to stumble over my words the whole meeting, but for the time being, we are going to be doing virtual meetings. Second thing to announce, I want to let folks know the YouTube video that went up for the January 2026 RAB meeting is in fact the wrong video. Thank you, Asa, for bringing this to my attention. I thought it was just a slide date issue. Turns out the video is actually the wrong year. So I am having our team work at correcting that. And then as we get into RAB business, we can discuss if the board wants to delay voting on minutes since you didn't have the correct video to look at to refer back to. And then final announcement before we get started is that the Portland District has decided to dismiss one of the RAB voting members. I have been directed by Portland District that any questions or requests for information on the dismissal need to be sent to the Freedom of Information Act office, or the FOIA office at Portland District. So I am going to pop a link to that office's website in the chat after I finish announcements. If anyone's interested in requesting more information, you can go to that link. It gives you directions on how to make a FOIA request to the Army Corps of Engineers Portland District. And then from there, the FOIA office will go through the process of determining what information, if any, is publicly releasable. That dismissal does not affect the investigation itself. And that is the end of my announcements. I am going to ask for, just because we haven't started the meeting, I am going to ask for questions, comments to be held until we start the meeting. We will have a time near the end of our presentations today to go over meetings. And then there's also topics at the end of the meetings for both RAB discussion and public comment. So I'm going to ask folks to hold any questions or comments about the announcements until those times, so we can prioritize the topics today. All right, from there, I am going to hand it off to Asa, our community co-chair, to open up the meeting.
All righty, thank you. Welcome to the March 10th, 2026 Bradford Island Restoration Advisory Board meeting. Next slide. Here's some tips on how to navigate Teams if you need it. Everyone got a handle on that? Next slide. So the RAB mission. The mission of the Bradford Island NPL RAB is to establish and maintain a forum with all interested parties for the exchange of information and an open and interactive dialogue concerning the CERCLA response activities at the Bradford Island NPL site. Next slide. All right, we will begin with a roll call. Hold on, I don't have a roll call list, so trying to look for my other list. It will take me a second. Hey, Megan, do
we
you
can
have
go to the next slide, and it has a list of our RAB members.
Oh, gotcha. Okay, there it is. That's the slide I'm used to. Okay. All right. Christy Baptiste. Valerie Hoy.
Present.
Carl Merkel,
Here.
Kate Murphy,
Here.
Jennifer Riddle,
Here.
and Andrea Sumrall.
Here.
Alrighty. I do believe we have a quorum.
Yes.
Alrighty.
Can I ask for a point of information? This is Kate.
Yeah, point of information, go ahead.
Yeah, are we meant to only hold our questions on the announcements till the end, or can we ask questions on other topics during the meeting, or is it just all questions are being held to the end this time?
I can answer that.
Yeah, go ahead, Megan.
Yeah, I'm just asking to hold questions on the announcements till those times. Those are kind of like the topics that, or the topic periods that we have to talk about, meeting logistics and to talk about any topics that aren't part of the slides today. So as we get to go through the slides and we have relevant questions to those topics or related questions to those topics, as usual, folks are welcome to jump in.
Right.
RAB members, we pretty much always just let you guys raise your hand, come off mute to ask questions. And then I typically pause at certain points to ask if the public has any questions.
And at what point would somebody like make a motion to add an agenda item? Does it have to come before the meeting, or?
I mean, if there's I think according to our guidelines, the community co-chair can add or ask or recommend to add agenda items to a meeting at the beginning. And then additionally, we have, when we talk about meeting logistics, we have a point where we go through suggested topics for future meetings.
Okay, so we need to, and if we want an agenda item on the meeting, we need to let them know 2 months in advance, because that's when we have these meetings every other month. Am I hearing that right?
You're welcome to email me and Asa in the meantime and ask if there's an agenda item you'd like us to prepare for. You can certainly request it in the meantime.
Okay, because I just was wondering like how I would go about making a motion to have at some point a discussion about our operating procedures. Like,
I
so
think
that
I think a great time for that would be during the RAB discussion.
Okay.
Yeah, I was going to suggest during the general RAB discussion, that'd be a perfect time for that, if that's acceptable.
Yeah, that's great. I just wasn't sure when that was the best time. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, just to give a little context for all folks, for any topics of interest that folks would like to speak on during the meetings, but they, are not able to request beforehand, we have RAB discussion at the end, which is an open forum for our RAB members to bring up topics. And then we have a public comment period where the public is welcome to talk about whatever topics they want to bring up, any questions that didn't come up during the course of the meeting. So those are kind of like our any other business times.
Alrighty. Next slide. So the RAB business, our old business is the U.S. Army Corps of Engineer response to comments on the 2025 revision of site management plan. And our new business will be approved the January 2026 RAB minutes. And again, because the correct video was not available, my suggestion would be to table that until next meeting, so everybody has a chance to review the meeting. But it's up to this body if that's what they want to do. So, are there any questions? Next slide.
Okay, before we start into the SMP comments, are all RAB members in agreement that they want to table voting on the January minutes until the next meeting? Okay, I'm gonna assume silence is of folks saying they're okay with that. Sorry, if I cut Andrea off. Please go ahead.
No, I just say I'm okay with that, and if you need a motion,
I think we can table without doing motions. Asa, you're really good with the Roberts rules. Is that correct?
Well, it is on the agenda, so to table it, we should ask the body to vote.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Would you like to make a motion on that then, Asa?
The chair normally is not the one supposed to make the motions. They facilitate the meeting. The motions should come from the body.
Andrew will go ahead and make a motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Alrighty, well, we have a first and second to table the approval of January 2026 RAB minutes. Is there any more discussion?
I just
Okay.
would, sorry, this is Kate. I just would, since this has been kind of an ongoing issue with having a delay between, receiving the minutes and approving the minutes and stuff, just would encourage, again, like a more streamlined approach and maybe setting a deadline for those minutes to be out after each meeting so that we can reliably know when we're going to expect them, I think would be really helpful. Other than that, I'm fine with it. Thanks.
Okay. Yeah, I would ask Megan if that's something that's feasible under Army Corps of Engineers processes.
Or even just sending the audio recording to members only. That would be fine too, because that's available right away. And if we needed to like reference it, then we could refresh our memory that way.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we discussed a bit last time. What we work to for the Corps is 4 weeks.
Okay.
We do have, unfortunately, we have quite a bit of like QA checks that have to go into anything that goes to the public, not just our minutes. So hopefully for these January meetings, minutes, the transcript that was sent out is also going to be helpful. So just as a reminder, we decided to do that at the last meeting to help with this issue, to give people that better refresher.
That's great. That's great. Thank you.
Alrighty. Is there any more discussion? All right, we have a motion on the floor. All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed say no. And is there any abstains?
I don't know if you heard my eye, Jennifer.
All right, I do believe the motion passes. So it's hard to tell on my screen, but I think that was a consensus.
Yeah, definitely a consensus.
Okay.
All right, let's move on to the next slide, please.
Alrighty.
Okay, so I'm going to do a quick background before we get into talking about response to comments on the site management plan. So as a reminder, the site management plan is a very high-level technical document that gets updated every year by the Army Corps of Engineers. The primary purpose is to list out the products that we'll be producing that inform the investigation and to give commitment dates to that. It goes through both short and long-term goals, and it's not everything that we produce. It is a very high level. So the things that you'll see in it are things like work plans, which we would use to determine what kind of on-site work we'd be doing. And then also the very large reports of the CERCLA process. So the ones that we're currently working on are remedial investigations. In the September RAB meeting of last year, we went through the changes to the 2025 revision and provided an overview of the changes between 2024 and 2025. Following that, our RAB member Valerie Hoy provided some written comments to the Army Corps of Engineers to be included. What I'm going to present in the next few slides is a summary both of the comments and a summary of responses. So it's not the full comment and it's not the full response, just for keeping things a little bit shorter, but you will be able to look at the full comments and responses. After this meeting, we'll start going through the process of uploading those to the administrative record, and they'll be included with the 2025 version of the site management plan. Okay, so next slide, please. Okay, so for the first comment, the concern was, and again, I am paraphrasing here, the SMP is lacking details, particularly regarding PCBs. Those are polychlorinated biphenyls. My worry is not having a full understanding of contamination sources, which could lead to an incomplete cleanup and prolonged exposure risks, especially for tribal and recreational fishers and the environment in general. I will open it up. Valerie, are there any other contextual items that are missed in this paraphrase you'd like to add?
Thank you, Megan. I think the only thing that caught my eye was, I think PCB was mentioned the first time on page 10 of the SMP. And I just don't feel like we're emphasizing enough that we have the most PCB contaminated NPL in the nation. I just want to make sure we highlight that. And I don't think this document in the current form highlights that issue.
Yeah, and I do recall that as part of your full comment. So thanks for adding that. The USACE response on this one, and this is a paraphrase again. So the site management plan is laying out the products that are required from the USACE as per the federal facility agreement. So it's not all the technical information. It's not necessarily meant to go into a background of technical information or to talk in any length about the contaminants of concern on the site. It's predominantly about the reports and other products that we will be producing and the schedule. So that's why we don't see more detail of that in the SMP itself. However, we do have a number of places that technical information is captured, and I provided a quick list here on your screen. Okay, let's move on to the next slide. All right, next comment paraphrased. I do not believe USACE has thoroughly addressed comments from the Yakima Nation and the Cowlitz Indian tribe, leading to the perception of insufficient collaboration. What are those concerns and how are they being addressed? Valerie, anything you'd like to add to that?
No, thank you.
Okay. All right, so our USACE response goes back to the federal facility agreement as well as memorandum of understanding that we have with the tribes. For folks' awareness, the tribes that we have memorandum of understanding with are the Yakima Nation, the Cowlitz Indian tribe, and the Grand Ronde as well. So in accordance with those documents, the Corps, the EPA, state agencies of Washington and Oregon, and those MOU tribes regularly meet under project management meetings. Currently, we hold those once a month. And at those meetings, we go over schedule, project status, risks, issues. These groups also go through a a review and comment period of all primary and secondary documents. So that would be all the documents that you see in the site management plan. We do go through a process after every review and comment period of incorporating any recommendations as appropriate and then responding to each comment that we get. And then those comments are produced publicly, so they're added to the relevant document and they're placed in the administrative record so folks can see that coordination between those different organizations. I see Kate has her hand up. Please go ahead, Kate.
Thanks, Megan. I just wondering if you could talk a little bit more about the process for incorporating recommendations as appropriate. Like, can you expand on the as appropriate, like how it's deemed appropriate and who deems it appropriate? Thank you.
It's usually a joint effort. So the USACE goes through a review of all of the comments that we get. We have a combination of technical experts, legal. There is a expert center for CERCLA projects, also as part of the Army Corps of Engineers. So sometimes we go to those folks and get their opinion on things. We go through the recommendations, and it really depends on what the actual comment is. So there will be, of course, there'll be administrative things. Obviously, I don't think anyone's too concerned about that, like typos, things like that. But there could be, you know, technical things that maybe we need to have further discussion. So those can be discussion between ourselves and the commenting agency, or all the project managers that participate from EPA, tribes, states. So there'll usually be a number of them that we have additional conversations on. That may be to either understand the comment, or it may be to basically try to figure out how we're going to respond, or figure out like what the response should be. There are others where it's a little bit easier. Sometimes it's a matter of what is authorized by CERCLA.
Okay.
So if it's like you know, suggestion for petroleum sampling, like petroleum byproduct sampling, that's not authorized under CERCLA, unfortunately. So that's, you know, it may be a response where it's just very cut and dry like that, like it's written into law that we can't do that. So there's a combination of things we do, but there is a lot of coordination that goes on after that comment period before we send out a response.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Additionally, just to let folks know, there's also what we call like a back check period. That's where we provide our responses to all those groups. And then, you know, they are given an opportunity to provide any, like, you know, further details, or basically just respond to our response. So we got a couple hands up. Asa, go ahead.
Yeah, I just had a quick question on the ones that are not approved or not under CERCLA. Do we also receive a copy so that we see the tribe's concern? Thank you.
Yeah, so all the comments that we get from all the tribes, the states, the EPA, the Army Corps response, and then any back check responses, those all get collected in a single register of response to comments, and those get uploaded alongside the document that folks are reviewing and commenting on, and those get placed in the administrative record. Okay, over to Rich.
Hi everyone. Sorry, Megan. I just had to cut in and have a slight correction that the exemption for total petroleum hydrocarbons under CERCLA doesn't mean that you're legally obligated to not sample for them. It just means that there's an exemption under CERCLA for them. But for everyone here in the group, you know, there may be an exemption for TPH specifically, but there are other constituents that they do sample for that do fall under the hazardous materials and under CERCLA. So just go slight clarification there. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks, Rich. I was trying to think of a good example on the fly, but I didn't choose the most cut and dry one. So apologies to folks if that provided some confusion, but mostly what I was trying to say is there's some cases where we're just not authorized to go forward, or we disagree with may disagree technically and give a response that way. But there's quite a lot of coordination that happens on that. Asa, did you have another question?
Oh, no, sorry, I forgot to put my hand down.
No worries. Okay, let's proceed to the next slide, please. I believe this is our last comment, and I will go ahead and say this is probably the most paraphrased one. You see a lot of dots. I did my best with it, and as usual, I'll give Valerie a chance to add context here. The comment paraphrased is, USACE as both manager and likely potential responsible party, PRP, is responsible for funding and/or performing the cleanup. I'm incredibly concerned that this dual role raises accountability concerns, as the managing agency may face less scrutiny. Agencies such as EPA, Oregon Department of Environmental Quality, and Washington Department of Ecology provide oversight, but community and stakeholder engagement, as seen in successful site cleanups, is vital. So the USACE response on this one: the federal facility agreement does provide framework to ensure that the Army Corps of Engineers continues to make progress on the site, on the remediation. We also follow a number of requirements through the CERCLA and National Contingency Plan that require public engagement throughout the process, and also establish the RAB and require the soliciting of public input on the preferred remedy. Preferred remedy might not be a term that folks are familiar with. We're not at that stage. It would be after we finish our remedial investigations and get further down the line of deciding what our remedy in the different operable units is. So that's just a little context. Any questions on this one? Rich, go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to cut in and just let everyone know that, under the FFA, EPA, Oregon, and Washington all have the ability to dispute whatever decision is made. And if that dispute goes high enough that ultimately it's EPA administrator that would be the final decider on what the actual remedy would look like. So there are controls in place, and I got dinged by saying this on public media, but the Army Corps right now doesn't get to just make whatever decision at once. It is a very collaborative process, and there are controls in place to make sure that state guidelines are being followed, and that certain assumptions are made depending on where you are and who the community is.
Yeah.
That's it. Thanks.
Thanks, Rich. Yeah, addition to that, the tribes that have memorandum of understanding, they also have a dispute resolution process in place through those MOUs. It is different from what EPA and the states do, but it is another avenue where they can essentially escalate issues. Over to ASA. Asa, I believe you're on mute.
Sorry, I thought I clicked it off. Yeah, if the cleanup was challenged and it needed more funds, does it then have to go through the whole congressional process again to get more money to remedy it? I was just curious.
That's an interesting question. I think it would, I suppose it would really depend. I think if that were the case, where we were looking at a dispute that was a change of funding, it would be something really substantial. We do have, when the Corps builds our funding packages, there's, certain requirements to essentially make sure, like, they're not the most bare bone things, right? We're like required to really look hard at our requirements and give an estimate of what we think we can do. And especially for this project, we don't estimate on a very lean side. Like we try to make sure that our estimates include some amount of contingency, because CERCLA projects, by their nature, the cleanups can, especially in like the landfill is a really good example. It's possible that we'll find unknowns, and so we budget with the expectation to find unknowns. So that's just to say that, like, because of those reasons, I think it's really unlikely that we would run into a situation that we would have a dispute resolution that resulted in a significant budget change such that we would have to go to Congress. If that were the case, though, we could go through, we may have the grounds to go to Congress to ask for additional funds. There are also controls within the Army Corps of Engineers where if we have an emergency situation, we can go through a process of basically redistributing funds, like looking for places where either we have, maybe we had a contract that was funded for less than we projected, or maybe we have a project that was stalled. We can go through a process of redistributing those funds to put them to work immediately. So we do have some, some backups in case there was some sort of case like that. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, no, that's perfect. Thank you.
Okay, great. And now over to Valerie.
Thanks, Megan. I want to thank you for answering these questions for me. They were some of the things I was struggling to understand being on the RAB now, I think, for over a year. And I want to thank all the RAB members for allowing me to go through this process, submit them in writing, and then get some responses. It's very helpful. Thank you.
Yep, appreciate your comments. I think there were a lot of things here that folks are probably thinking about, and obviously it brought up some really good discussion today. So thanks for providing your comments. Are there any other comments, questions from the RAB regarding the site management plan? Okay, we're going to change topics in a second here, so I'm going to open it up to the public. Are there any members of the public that have a question on the site management plan? Okay, not seeing anyone. We'll go ahead and proceed forward. Next slide, please. All right, we're going to move into our site status. So I'm going to start with the upland operable unit. For anyone not familiar, this is the eastern end of Bradford Island. It is currently under a supplemental remedial investigation. So we are looking into the nature and extent of contamination on that side of Bradford Island, as well as a couple other areas on Bradford Island. We finished up a second round of sampling a few wells back in January 2026. That was our final sampling of wells under that SRI. And so we'll be moving forward with analyzing this data. After it is analyzed and validated, it will be sent over to our regulators and our tribes with MOUs. And then we'll be using all of this information together to put into a supplemental remedial investigation report. We're also going to be combining information that we gathered during the non-time critical removal action. So the non-time critical removal action is probably one of the things folks are most interested in right now. This is a removal action to excavate contaminated materials from Bradford Island in certain areas. We currently have a draft work plan that is under review by our tribes and our regulators. This work plan talks about how we will be going through the removal action, what we're planning to do, and how we're planning to do it. They will be reviewing that until, I believe it is early April. I'm sorry, folks. I'm blanking a little bit. I usually know this date right off heart, but I'm blanking a little bit on when they're expected to finish their review. But once they finish providing their comments to us, we'll start going through and responding to those comments. And in the meantime, we'll continue planning to start mobilizing for that non-time critical removal action. We're currently planning in the May timeframe to get our contractor on site and start prepping. Ideally, we'll be able to break ground starting in the June timeframe. So we'll keep updating you on that status. But looks like it's going to be a busy summer for us. Let's move on to the next slide. All right, so our river operable unit, this is also under a supplemental remedial investigation. for anyone needing reminder, the river OU is the area from the dam and the spillways to approximately 1 mile upriver, touching both the Oregon and Washington shorelines. We are going through the Phase 2 supplemental remedial investigation at this time. We have actually finished up all of the sampling activities that we had planned for 2026. Those got finished up just recently. Much like the Upland OU, we'll be going through the evaluation of the data, validating that data. That does take some time with our labs, so please be patient with us. And then all that information is going to be collected into a supplemental remedial investigation report. So the goal of this report is to determine the nature, the extent of the contamination in the river, and then any mechanisms of fate and transport. For anyone interested, I know this does come up quite a lot. Anyone interested and either not aware or forgot, we are both looking into the river OU itself as well as downriver. So this was quite an extensive sampling activity that went on that we just recently finished. All right, next slide, please. So at the last RAB meeting, we talked about the sampling effort as it was going on and provided some updates on like how we were doing, what we were seeing out in the field. So for this time, we wanted to just kind of update that and cap it off. I'll introduce the topic and then I'll have our contractor Jacobs, who performed the on-site work, go through some slides. They'll be able to show you some graphics of where we did our sampling, as well as some photos of the sampling in action. So as a reminder, sampling that we did both surface and subsurface sediment samples and other materials, you know, basically anything below the surface of the river. So we took those samples above and below the dam. There were samples around Bradford Island and in the forebay, which is basically the spillway north of Bradford Island. We took samples around the mouth of Eagle Creek and also took samples around the Goose Island dredge pile. The below dam samples, those went as far as 5 miles below the dam. I actually have an update to this slide, is that we completed our soil borings on Goose Island. So those were just taken since the time that these slides were produced. And all this information is going to be evaluated, validated, and then the SRI report will compile the analysis of all that information. Okay, from here, I'm going to hand it over to Jacobs to get into some details of the sampling we finished. Next slide, please.
Okay, thanks, Megan. This is Jay Wilburn with Jacobs. I believe that we presented these figures in previous RABs, so they'll look familiar. And this slide basically shows the sampling that was done above the dam, and it's kind of split up into somewhat sub areas that you can see there, where we have areas that were south of Bradford Island on the south shore, and then the north shore, which is where there's a large concentration of samples that were collected, and then out into the forebay, which is between Bradford Island and Cascades Island on the north side, and then a little bit farther up above the dam there, you'll see the green area, and that surrounds Goose Island and the sampling that was done around there. And then also we had 5 soil borings completed on Goose Island itself. And so the sampling that was done were a combination of different technologies. One technology was a freeze core method, which I believe we discussed during a previous RAB, and with freeze grab. And then more recently, we completed a sonic drilling method with a sonic drill rig that was on a barge and drilling from the barge itself. And then that was the more recent completion of activities that were done. And so these locations are a combination of the various different sampling methods. I think we can move on. Okay, these were this is the locations that were completed downriver, downriver of the dam itself, and we kind of looked at these before, but as Megan said, it went about 5 miles downriver. There was a combination of using the freeze core and freeze grab methods, and then also some hand auger methods that we had done on land, especially in the area to avoid some salmon concerns. And so those were done on land. And so it's a combination of hand auger and freeze core and freeze crab methods. Okay, I believe you can move on. Okay, some more recent pictures that you haven't seen. This is the sonic drilling from the barge, and the picture on the left side of the slide here. You can see the drill rig and the drill crew itself, and they are on a barge out in the river itself. And they drill through. Basically, there's an open hole that's in the middle of the barge, and they can drill through that. And essentially, there you can see the pipes that are on kind of the right side of the picture there. And basically, that drilling method uses the pipes and then drills down into the sediment to collect the sample, and then pulls it up to the surface where the field teams will take that sample. It basically is taken out of the sampling core that it comes out of. And so you'll see that core on the right side of the figure there. And that's just an example of one of the sonic sediment cores that has come up. And basically it's documented and then sampled and put into various different types of jars and sent off for laboratory analysis. Okay. That might be, I don't know if we have another slide or not. I think that might be the one slide. So, yes.
Great. Thanks for that update, Jay.
Sure.
So from our RAB members, any questions regarding the phase 2 sampling effort? Kate, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just curious if y'all are planning any kind of documentation efforts of the removal actions, like, visually, like photos or videos or anything like that.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so this is for folks' context, we're talking about the Upland OU non-time critical removal action, right?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so yeah, there will be quite a lot of documentation. We'll have quite a lot of there's going to be, of course, a lot of daily reports and stuff like that, folks writing reports on site, but there's also going to be quite a lot of photo documentation as we go along. So as we do our RAB meetings through the summer, we'll be able to provide updates kind of like we did here for the phase 2 river, and we'll be able to provide some photos and just status updates of what we've completed.
That's great. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'll open it up. Any other questions from our RAB members, Upland or River OU, before we move into Cascades Island? All right. So nothing new to report on Cascades Island, really. The work plan is under development. The Army Corps is doing our reviews now. So we will be looking to get that a little later this spring out to our regulators and tribes for their review. So nothing really additional to add there. I'll open it up to the public. Any questions from our public about any of our technical status? Okay, not seeing any hands. Oh, I'm sorry. Let me add a little bit of context here. For anyone not aware, Cascades Island is an island at the Bonneville Dam complex. It is just north of Bradford Island. So it is between the spillway and the powerhouse 2. All right, let's move on to the next slide, please. Okay. All right. RAB meeting dates. Asa, I'm sorry. Were you going to facilitate this slide or was this me? I lost my note on that.
Yeah, I can take it.
Okay. Thank you.
So the next meeting would be scheduled for May 12th, 2026. And these are the next two meetings after that for July 14th and September 8th. And the potential topics are the NTCRA work plan planned for May 2026 RAB. And I know we were going to wait for later in the meeting, but this might be a good point for Kate to bring up her subject of additional discussion. Would that be okay?
Yeah, any requests for topics here is appropriate. Any discussion regarding the logistics of the meeting, including any comments or questions regarding moving to virtual meetings.
Thank you. This is Kate. I can save my questions till the end, but I guess what I thought might be helpful, and maybe this isn't necessarily like a public meeting, but just a RAB member meeting, to review our rules and procedures document. There was I have a few questions about it, which I'm happy to like put out there, but I just thought it might be helpful for everyone. For one, I wasn't sure if we'd ever established a procedures committee, which is mentioned in there, for handling, issues in the RAB.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so I had some questions. I have a few questions about that. And then as far as the virtual versus in-person meetings, I guess one thing that would be helpful to know is, like, up until this point, we've just voted as a RAB on what to do there. And that's also true for voting in members. And I guess for me, I have some confusion about when we are voting on things as a RAB and when the Army Corps will decide to step in and make a unilateral decision about something.
Yeah. Yeah, let me first start with the context around a RAB decision versus an Army Corps decision. It ultimately comes down to if there's something the Army Corps can't support, there's really, no vote, unfortunately, to happen. In this case of doing virtual meetings, we just, for a little while, we're not going to be able to facilitate an in-person portion, which is why we didn't put it to the RAB to basically vote on that, because we are not going to be able to provide that.
Oh, okay. Well, that
Yeah.
feels different to me than what was in an email that it was related to the removal of a RAB member.
Okay. So, and let's see, the other topic was whether there could be a RAB members meeting to go over the guidelines. Definitely. Yeah, we can absolutely do that. I will reach out this week to folks to get your availability for that. And then anyone that's interested in participating, we don't necessarily have to have a quorum. It can be for any RAB members that are interested. But I'll put out like a doodle poll for folks to respond to.
Yeah, I actually think it should require, I think we should have something that, like, people are required to at least review it, even if they can't attend, because I think do you remember if we did a procedures committee, if we established that?
I believe we have not established a procedures committee.
Okay.
Overall for like operating guidelines. Our last training on that, I believe, was August of last year. I
Okay.
could be wrong on the date. We've done 2 so far during the course of the RAB.
Okay, because I just it's in our final operating procedures document that we should have that existing. And I guess, I have some concerns about how the process was handled with the removal of a RAB member.
Mm-hmm.
It's not clear to me what process was taken. We have the rules and operations document, rules and procedures document that does discuss member termination. It doesn't cover every, circumstance, but it does involve a process. And I guess, to have the Army Corps unilaterally make a decision that, from the lack of information we have, feels like it could be arbitrary. without consulting the RAB in any way feels like it's outside of the established rules and procedures that we created for this RAB. And so I guess it would be helpful to have some clarification around that.
Yeah. Yeah, I can definitely, we can definitely have a meeting to get into those topics. Obviously, like I said earlier, I can't make any comments regarding the dismissal of the RAB member. I can offer again that folks can make a FOIA request. I know it's a little bit weighty to do so, but unfortunately that's all I can provide at this meeting. That said, we can definitely have a meeting to dive into the operating procedures. And then if there's changes needed, of course, the RAB has the power to make those changes in the operating procedures.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that, that you're trying to have discretion. And I just think that as a RAB member, it's now become unclear to me what could get us disqualified from this group that we were, brought into. So I'm not, it's not clear to me if it just, if someone were just to call with like, what is the threshold for the Army Corps making a decision without discussion with the RAB to remove a member? Because, and this isn't at you personally at all, Megan, it's just, I'm trying to understand, like, that feels like a conflict of interest if the polluting party can arbitrarily decide to remove a member without, offering some sort of valid evidence, like a crime has been committed or something like that, or there's a clear rule within our established rules and procedures document that's been violated. So I guess, I don't want us to brush over that because that's a concern to me as a RAB member to have clarity there, and to understand the process that kind of happened without our input.
Yeah, understood. Yeah, I can offer, and I know this is not a lot of details. All I can offer is there was a violation of the operating procedures. That's all I can say here.
Can you say which procedures was violated?
It was a misrepresentation of the role of the RAB.
Is that in our rules, procedures? Like,
it goes over what the roles actually are.
Yeah, I've got the document. I'm just wondering if you can point to which section that's in.
I don't have it up, unfortunately. I really can't get into really too many details though, folks. I'm really sorry that's probably be very frustrating for everyone.
Well, I just think like if we're asking people to show up here regularly and trust that we have some autonomy in this group, I guess I feel like I don't think I think what's been revealed isn't more than what would be revealed by helping us understand specifically what rule was broken. Because to say, oh, well, we can't talk about it, just leaves a lot of ambiguity around what.
So, yeah, I can't comment on it here. I can only offer that you can make a FOIA request and ask for more information that way. So this is a case where the project manager, have not been given authority to talk about it. If you ask the FOIA office, they would coordinate with folks to determine what's releasable to the public.
Okay. Can you tell us what the Army Corps process is when they take over that decision making? Like, what is the process that happens? Like, who's involved? What, like, is there?
Yeah. The general process was there was a notification to the Army Corps of a misrepresentation. It became a discussion at the project management working level, a program management working level, as well as the supervisory staff of those two groups. And then it was ultimately brought in Office of Counsel, and the decision was made at the commanding officer of the Portland district. So that was Colonel Caswell.
Okay. And so when that notification of the violation came through to the Corps, was that like a verifiable violation? Like, did they provide evidence of that?
Yes,
Okay. And that's what you can't share.
correct. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, over to Asa.
Yeah, I can't speak to the specific incident, but I can give a little bit of context about how the Army Corps of Engineers is unique. I did 23 years in the military, and we worked with them quite a bit overseas. The Army Corps of Engineers is a major command in the military, so it is a section of the Department of Defense, and it's a weird one because it employs a lot of civilian and scientist expertise in what they do. They're almost kind of like the technical advisory to the other branches of the armed forces, like the Navy, the Army on projects. Like we use them to when we were putting wells in the Philippines in southern Mindanao. The Army Corps technical team is what came out and told us the best place to put the wells. They advised the CBs on, the best locations. And so it's kind of a weird because it is a hybrid of civilian expertise under military authority that has military command structure. So part of it is under the Uniform Code of Military Justice, and some of it is under the purview of regular laws and regulations and other congressional authority. Where like the EPA, in my opinion, is under total civilian authority. And so when things happen or things elevate, there's a commander in the Army Corps of Engineers that's in his jurisdiction, and it falls under his command team to deal with or look at. So I hope that helps with some context. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks,
Carl
Asa.
Hartzell. Carl had a question in the chat. And it says, and what offenses are fireable by the RAB and what are fireable by the Corps? Do they differ?
That's probably a good question to when we get into a meeting about operating procedures. I think that would be the best time to do so. I don't have that in front of me, and I haven't prepared to go through the particulars of that document today. So apologies, Carl, but I think that's like the kind of topics we would discuss at that operating procedures meeting.
Yeah, that's fine. I was just throwing that out there, and at some point when it's appropriate to get into that would be fine. It doesn't have to be now. I wasn't suggesting it be now. So thank you.
Mm-hmm. Great. All right, Valerie's got her hand up. Go ahead, Valerie.
Thank you, Megan. I don't know if you'll be able to answer this, but do we have any timeline on when we might be able to have information to actually discuss this at a RAB meeting as opposed to going through a FOIA request?
I don't know when that would happen, unfortunately. Yeah, I know I'm trying to find what detail I can give, and there's a lot of detail I can't. We are not, I can say from the Corps standpoint, we're not necessarily tracking a time frame that we can offer more details publicly at the RAB at this time. If we get to that point, I can let folks know and see if we want to have a future topic on this. But for now, I have to ask folks to go through the FOIA process. Okay. So any other questions regarding meetings, potential topics for the future from our RAB members?
Yeah, Megan, this is Asa. I think Valerie was speaking to kind of forming a procedure subcommittee. Is that correct?
I believe that was Kate.
Oh, sorry, Kate. I'm sorry, Kate. Yeah, you're right, Kate.
So would we like to handle that as part of the RAB only procedural meeting?
Yeah, I think that would be a good fit for it.
Great. Okay. For our note takers, can we just take an action on that one to have that as a topic for a procedural meeting. Kate, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks. I'm just wondering if that procedures committee had been in place, would they have been involved in the conversation or no?
I think, and I'm just using my judgment here as the person who was not a decision maker.
Mhm.
I think likely not in this case.
Okay. So maybe if the court could prepare some clarification on what would be the point of having that, is that solely for internal disputes, and what the threshold is for the Army Corps taking over?
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks.
Yeah. Thanks, Kate. Okay. Over to our public. Are there any comments that the public is excuse me, not comments. Are there any potential topics that the public is interested in seeing in the future? I see Mitch has his hand up. Was that for potential topics, Mitch?
Yeah, I was just wondering too on the as far as the rules of the RAB and that kind of stuff. It kind of seems like there's quite a bit of people that misunderstand what the RAB is and what its abilities are to do. So I kind of think that you really need to focus a little more on that. I know we hit on it a couple times when I was there, but anything that I've ever done is not justifiable for any of the actions that were taken. And so I just wanted the other RAB members so that they can actually go out in the public and look for things and research things without wondering, geez, am I going to be the next one that gets the axe? So I would really, really hope that you guys take this very, very seriously and get your rules established, get them to where everybody knows what's going on so that people don't get terminated as I was terminated, completely blindsided. So I'll leave it at that on that, but I do have more comments for later.
All right. So yeah, we do have occasional trainings that go through the roles and responsibilities of the RAB and how we conduct meetings, as well as you know, what the expectations are of RAB members. But obviously there's a need to go through our procedural guidelines some more with our RAB members, and there'll be questions I'm sure they have. If there are any kind of changes or any highlights that the RAB members want to highlight to the public from that, we can definitely include that as a future meeting topic. So we can both go into what changes the RAB wants to make, as well as if there's things that folks just want to notify the public of, or help the public understand, we can talk about those too at public RAB meetings. All right, let's move on to the next slide then. So this is our last slide. First, we will open it up for RAB discussion. So this is any other business items from our RAB. All right, I'm not seeing any hands from our RAB members. Now we'll move on to our public open forum. So this is an opportunity for the public to make comment. Mitch, go ahead.
Yeah, this is Mitch Patton again. Hey, I know that the RAB members can't speak about it and they're all wondering what had happened. There's some allegations being made on me from the Skamania County Sheriff's Department. They're false allegations. I want to make that clear to everybody on this RAB board. And that the fact of taking something like that and just running with it just seems really bizarre. And the statement that I made, I think this is a statement that triggered this whole thing. I had made a statement because Skamania County Sheriff's Department has trying to charge me with stalking of an officer. And I had wrote an email to the prosecuting attorney stating, hey, I need to be able to move freely through North Bonneville, the area where this is at and happened at. I'm assuming that's it, because that's the only thing I can come up with. I have no idea. Nobody will tell me what I did. So assuming that is the situation, and I did mention to them that I was on the RAB board and that as a public citizen, I need to know whether I can move freely through North Bonneville or not. And the prosecutor refused to respond to my email. And the next thing I get is a notification from Army Corps Engineers Colonel terminating me from the RAB board. And I'm assuming that is what triggered this thing. I don't know. Nobody's told me. I've asked Army Corps. They told me to go through this FOIA thing, which does not work. I feel sorry for anybody that tries to use that system. And it's a mess. So I'll leave it at that, but I just want everybody to know this is what was said. I did say it, that yes, I am a RAB board member, and I should be able to say that I'm that freely at any time that I want to, because I am, and I was representing the RAB. So I'll leave it at that, and hopefully this thing doesn't explode into a larger situation than it already has turned out to be. It's a mess. Thank you.
Just want to offer a quick note here. The FOIA process does take time. So for anyone who's pursuing that, just be aware. It's quite a few different checks that have to go in through, and then information has to be evaluated to see if it's publicly releasable. So for anyone wanting to do that, I can just offer, like, if you have patience for it, that's going to be the best outcome. Over to Kate.
Thank you. Yeah, it sounds like we have a lot to discuss. And I just want to say to Mitch that I really appreciate what a kind of fierce advocate you've been for cleanup in this area. You've put in a lot of time and I think a lot of good faith effort in trying to, find out where the contamination is and protect the public from it. And I think that was done with good intention. And so just want to express appreciation for your service to the RAB. And, I'm really sorry that it's all going down like this, but gratitude to you for your advocacy.
Thank you.
Sorry for the silence there, folks. My computer froze up just a little bit there. Okay, so do we have any other? Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't see Valerie's hand up. Valerie, go ahead.
Thanks, Megan. I just put my hand up. I thought my computer froze. I have to admit, I saw a lot of information coming out before our meeting, which I appreciate. I'm honestly still a little confused by this whole situation, and I do find it concerning. As a community member, reading the information, going on site visits, which I do appreciate having that site visit in person, just preparing for these meetings and being present. This kind of makes me wonder if I want to, quite frankly, participate in this process. I find it incredibly concerning. And bluntly, I'm going to think now between this meeting and next whether I want to continue. And I'll let you know, obviously, before the next meeting. Thank you.
All right. Hopefully, having a procedural meeting will help some of those questions, but respect your opinion and your decision on that either way, Valerie.
Thanks, Megan. I appreciate it.
I see Carl entered a comment in the chat. I'm just going to read that aloud for folks. Carl says, maybe that's another possible question. Who speaks for the RAB? When RAB has a position or statement or a question, who is authorized to speak on behalf of or representative of the RAB? So we do have some procedures on that. If any RAB member wants to speak on behalf of the RAB, not just as themselves as a private citizen, it is simply a matter of kind of just drafting up the statement and getting approval from a quorum of the other RAB members. And that applies to whether you're looking to make like a written public comment, speak in front of a body, speak to like on a radio show or anything like that. Whatever the case is, it's just a matter of chatting with your other RAB members and getting their approval. Kate?
Yeah, sorry, I'm just clarifying in the document for our final operating procedures. It says RAB community members must have prior approval of the RAB before speaking for the RAB during press interviews or other public affairs activities. And that sounds different to me than what you just described. So,
Okay.
yeah, just wondering. Yeah, again, it sounds like we need more clarity.
Yeah, okay, good note, Kate. Let's plan to talk about that at the procedures meeting. If there's something that we need to change in that document to make it clear, we can definitely do that.
Yeah, because it wasn't clear to me that we needed any permission for just interacting with community members and stuff and educating the public. I mean, in fact, in other places in the document, we're encouraged to do that. And so, yeah, from my understanding of the reading of that document, the only time we needed permission was when we're doing like public affairs or media.
Okay, I think I might have misunderstood there. So that's the lens I was coming from when I was answering Carl's question. When I said making a statement, that's my thought was like it would be a RAB member making a statement to like a county commission meeting, making a press interview, and that kind of stuff. So there is potentially still some clarity we should add to the document to help with that. But certainly RAB members are encouraged to go, out and speak with the public.
Yeah, and I would also,
yeah, let's dig into that more, and we'll talk about like how we should clarify those procedures so folks feel comfortable.
Yeah, and making sure that it's clear that it's like where the contextually where it happens and how it happens matters, because in a small town, you could not, you could be running into somebody at the grocery store, or, someone who's new doesn't know who somebody is. So just making sure that we're like being really clear about context as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And Carl had a follow-up I'll read out real quick. But is it a problem to simply ID as a RAB member as opposed to for the RAB or on behalf of the RAB? Carl, absolutely not any issue with letting folks know that you're a RAB member. If you're going to speak on behalf of the RAB, that's where you would want to get that input from your other RAB members. So sharing information, for example, is not really speaking on behalf of the RAB. That's just kind of like sharing info. But I think probably these details we'll dig into a lot more in that other meeting. Kate, did you have a follow-up there?
No, I can hold it till the meeting. Thanks.
Okay. All right. Let's see. Let me just go back to our list of attendees here. Do we have any other public members or RAB members that have additional comment, question, suggested topics? Okay. In closing us out, if anyone is interested in either becoming a RAB member or interested in being added to our mailing list where we announce meetings, you are welcome to email the email at the bottom left-hand corner of this slide. That's the Bradford Island public comment inbox at usace.army.mil. And we can add you, and we can also walk you through how to apply to be a RAB member. With that, we are at 6:17 p.m. Oh, I'm sorry. I just saw a hand go up. Mitch, go ahead.
Yeah, I had one question. I don't know, but I had written a letter in to I think this Bradford Island public comment. Does that get passed on to the RAB members, or does it not? Do they have to actually go through the FOIA to receive those public comments?
No, anything that's passed to, so if any public member that emails this inbox, if they have something they'd like to be passed to the RAB, it goes through automatically. The only thing that we might not pass along is if there's personal information in there, we may have to go through the process of taking some PII out.
Okay.
Excuse me.
Did you, or did
I
whoever,
use an acronym, personally identifiable. For
But
the email that you sent, I think it was
Yes.
yesterday or maybe earlier this week. I did
Yeah.
pass that along to the RAB members.
Okay,
Just to let
perfect,
you
thank you.
know, the attachments do have personally identifiable information. So I sent the letter and let them know that there are attachments I'm having our team go through to remove that personally identifiable information. And if there's anything
Okay.
else sensitive there, they might have to remove that as well.
Everything
So
I
we're
sent
going-
you is everything I sent you was open public record, so there's really nothing personal in it. It's already found through public records requests. So it is
When it
public
comes
information.
to, yeah, when it comes to folks, when it has their like, if it has their name and their address or their name and their phone number attached, we have
Mhm.
requirements to go through and remove that regardless of if it's public record or not.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Yeah. So yeah, that does take a little bit of time. I sent it off to our team to start going through that process. It goes through our public affairs and our office of counsel, just so folks are aware. And they grew through those processes of making sure everything's publicly releasable. But all the content of the email you sent has already been sent to the RAB members.
Okay, well, hopefully they'll follow up with the attachments because there's a lot of information that helps provide why this happened.
Mm-hmm.
So appreciate it. Thank you.
Yep. Yeah, if there's anything that we have to remove, I will let the RAB members know and let them know why. And again, that would be information we can't share, like publicly identifiable, personally identifiable information. Sorry, folks. We have too many acronyms. Mitch, I still see your hand up. Anything else that you needed to add or follow up on?
Nope, I guess I just forgot to take it down. Thanks.
No worries. Okay, thanks, Mitch. All right, let's do one last final call for any comments, questions, input from our public members or our RAB members. Okay, thanks, folks. Our next meeting is going to be in May. We'll be talking about the non-time critical removal action work plan. So there'll be a lot to talk about at that next meeting. At this time, I will call for Asa, help me out here. I'm missing the words here for Robert's rules.
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you.
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you so much. Okay, can I call for a motion to adjourn, please?
This
That
is
was
Kate,
me.
and we
Motion to
adjourn.
adjourn.
Oh, I second.
Okay, I have a, a motion to adjourn and a second. So that concludes our meeting. Thank you all very much. And Asa, special thank you for helping with me with Robert's rules.
Anytime. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks all. Have a good night.
Thanks, Megan.
Thanks all.